Bruins, after a quick turnaround, their momentum kept going when they visited the Florida Panthers in Sunrise, and the Panthers' lack of puck management proved costly.
You're Locked On Panthers, your daily podcast on the Florida Panthers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into this Tuesday, May 7th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We're to our team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. I'm Armando Velez from the Hockey News. You can follow me on X at Monoman12. Follow the show account on X and Instagram at @LO_FLA Panthers. And shout out to the everydayers who come back here and get your daily Florida Panthers fix. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. Get in the game and join your friends with Monopoly Go. You can win cash prizes and mess with your friends with Monopoly Go, and you can unlock awesome prizes like unique stickers for trading, cool playing pieces, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. So download Monopoly Go now free on the Google Play or the App Store. Game on. So the Florida Panthers dropped their first game of this 7-game series against the Boston Bruins. The whole conversation prior to this one was rest versus rust. What would you take for if you are in the position of the Florida Panthers? Although I would still take the rest for the Florida Panthers. Man, did the Boston Bruins come into this one just continuing their momentum from their 7-game series against the Toronto Maple Leafs. And really, for the Panthers, I mean, and the Bruins, they were playing their game. Panthers were dominating part of the second period, but after the Florida Panthers scored, thanks to Matthew Tkachuk, it was really for the Panthers, for the Bruins, everything just flipped after that, scoring 1 minute and 6 seconds after the Panthers scored, and it was all Boston after that. And here to break down this 5-1 loss for the Florida Panthers against the Boston Bruins, he is the host of Locked On Syracuse, South Florida native, and Florida Panthers fan, a guy that has been on this show plenty of times before, Jackson Holzer. Jackson, welcome back to the show, my friend. This one on a not-so-pleasant night in South Florida. Hold on, I have you on mute.
The game. Oh, wait. Now you can hear me.
Yeah.
Being on the show is a lot better than watching that game. I said to my friends that if I wasn't appearing on the show, I probably would have turned it off when it was, 4-1, I want to say, in the third period. And that's just because I wouldn't have actually turned it off. I was just really upset. But the point being, yeah, it's good to be back on, Armando.
Yes, thank you once again, my friend. And also for this one, this was really a game where you saw that the Panthers and the Bruins were playing both their style of games. Panthers getting a good amount of time in their offensive zone. They were really the team that was really firing early. But really, I mean, this was the best way I could describe this was kind of a train wreck waiting to happen. Or if you see a whole bunch of people biking on the street, maybe you have a crew of 20 bikers, and the person in the very front crashes. What happens? It's a chain reaction of everyone else crashing at the same time. And really, when you see the Panthers' puck management, really in the first period, I was thinking, okay, and Aaron Ekblad specifically, just the lack of care for the puck for him, and you know that David Pastrnak was getting a lot of his chances early on, and you're thinking, okay, the Panthers were getting a little bit got out of that first period unscathed. I called it a survival period, but then really the issues for the Panthers really carried on later, and it proved costly. I mean, on one of the goals, I will say Bobrovsky did put Ekblad in a little bit of a hard position there right before chipping it up. But man, this was really we really saw signs of this in the beginning of the game.
So here's what I'll say. Aaron Ekblad had a terrible, no good, very bad day.
Mm-hmm.
He was not very good at all. And shout out to the advanced metrics that actually backed up the eye test. He was bad. I counted at least 3 turnovers / bad reads in the first period, and they were all ironically to David Pastrnak. And you know what? You have a goaltender for a reason. Did Aaron Ekblad have a good game? No. But you got a Vezina finalist in net.
Mm-hmm.
You got a Vezina finalist. He's supposed to make saves.
Yep.
And in the first period, he made the saves. That's the job. And in the second period and into the third, Sergei Bobrovsky, a Vezina finalist, someone who had a magical playoff run last year and who has, for the most part, completely changed the narrative around his contract, played like the guy who is making way too much. Plain and simple. He allows in 4 goals on 5 shots. You got to stop the puck. Aaron Ekblad did not play well. Gustav Forsling didn't play well. I'm sure we might talk about Vladimir Tarasenko. I thought his evil twin suited up tonight. I didn't know who was out there. Sergei Bobrovsky played great in the first period, and in the second period, I'm pretty sure his brother came on the ice because that's what it looked like. He couldn't make a save. That's how I read the game. I didn't take anything rust versus rest. I don't care. Sergei Bobrovsky was not on his game tonight, and that is the main reason why the Florida Panthers lost.
Yeah, and for them, I mean, you think about the goal by Mason Lohrei, which Kevin Weeks did a really great job at describing that play with the RVH, where Lohrei was in on the pinch, and the Bruins kept that in their own zone. And with Bobrovsky not reading that play well, thinking that Lohrei was a little bit closer to the goal line using that RVH, and then he goes back towards the circle instead of like standing up on his crease. I mean, you're not taking away the angle as much on that play. And also, I thought this was I think the Panthers really wasted a really great performance by Alexander Barkov too.
I thought he played well, yeah.
I thought he was really well as far as in creating turnovers, and also the Panthers were just a little bit slow. I mean, on that goal that Brandon Carlo scored, I mean, the Gustav Forsling tried chipping it up, and yeah, that's what you do to maybe get a reset on so that you can possibly force an offside. But when you're like probably 10 feet away from Trent Frederick right before getting to that puck, I mean, you got to be better with and you got to be on your toes with when you're like looking around with your peripherals there. And I mean, that really cost the Panthers there, and that's really right towards the end of the period too. I mean, you're looking at going into that locker room and in 3-1 versus 2-1 when it's just bad break after bad break. And I mean, when you think about the Bruins, it wasn't really it wasn't really goals that were off the cycle. It was really about just the Panthers and just errant passes, no man's land, and just positioning there, which, yeah, Bobrovsky was leaked in more goals than he should, but it's just Panthers were also very slow to their feet on the night.
I can't disagree with you. I really can't. But at the end of the day, mistakes are going to happen. I thought, yeah, they made a couple errors. I thought Bobrovsky put Ekblad in a bad position on the first goal. He could have easily reversed it. I thought Ekblad just chipped the puck off the wall and it took a bad bounce. Sorry, it happens. There are bad bounces. There was I saw someone say there was a missed high stick on Anton Lundell on the fourth goal that made it 4-1 Bruins. Shocker, Armando. The referees are not always very good.
Can't rely on it.
It's one of those things where I just look back on it and I just say, you need your goaltender to make the saves. You really do. The puck management isn't great. This, that, whatever. You need your goalie. That's the job. He needs to bail you out at times. Jeremy Swayman bailed out the Bruins.
Oh, yeah.
The only time he didn't was because Hampus Lindholm decided to play offense and deflected Matthew Tkachuk's shot. It was a great deflection, by the way. That was it. Jeremy Swayman was there. Sergei Bobrovsky was not. The Florida Panthers power play, I'm sure we'll get to that as well, was not there. Boston Bruins, you got to tip your cap. They played a better game tonight.
Definitely did play a better game tonight. And you mentioned Jeremy Swayman, which we'll definitely get into segment number 2 here on the show, which I'm sure we will have much discussion about Jeremy Swayman. here in segment number 2. We're going to discuss our 3 stars and the moment when we thought this game was lost. We're going to discuss that and more here on the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Monopoly Go. And all right, game off. We got to pause here and talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. Flag on the play. You already talked about that. But there's so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up the other boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. There's so much to get. And there's unique stickers you can trade with friends to compete for albums for big prizes. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you slash their buildings and heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels now new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their unique mini games like digging for treasures or a robot pachinko machine. And there's always a new timed event that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download Monopoly Go now free on the Google Play or the App Store. Game on. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft is available now. The ultimate 6-episode series on Locked On NFL Draft to hear the local experts on who they picked for every NFL franchise, with live reactions from local college experts and even fantasy football angle. The Locked On NFL Mock Draft available now on Locked On NFL Draft on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Back on this Tuesday, May 7th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day, where the Florida Panthers lose to the Boston Bruins by a final score of 5-1 at home in Game 1 of this second round series rematch between the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins. So, Jackson, when it comes to your 3 stars of the game for this one, third star for me, David Pastrnak. Yeah, he got 1 point on the night, but man, what he was doing for creating offense and getting his stick in the lane, using his speed to at least drive to the net. Bobrovsky stopped him, but there are 2 unlikely scores for the Panthers. We mentioned Mason Lohrei and also Brazo, who got his first playoff goal, which guess who was chasing him on that back check? Aaron Ekblad, even though he forced it to the backhand there. So, but Swayman, Pasta's number 3. Lohrei is number 2 for getting 2 points on the night. And Jeremy Swayman is number 1, 38 of 39 on the night for the Bruins for him. And you mentioned it for Boston, 4 goals on those 5 shots, and a lot of times in between those 5 shots too. That's the worst part about all of that for the Panthers as far as the goals given up. But your 3 stars, my friend.
My 3 stars, I will give David Pastrnak the 3rd star because, to your point, I thought even though the score sheet says he only had 1 assist, he was a menace all night long, particularly in the beginning of the game. He really just set the tone for the Bruins. I think the 2nd star should, by default, go to Brandon Carlo because he's a new dad. And
yep, congratulations to him.
Congratulations, even though he did it against the team I love. Hey, congratulations to him. Now, I hope he doesn't score another goal for the rest of his life, unless it's for the Florida Panthers. And the 1st star, got to go with Jeremy Swayman. He was a brick wall in net.
Yeah, and man, multiple times where the Panthers came crashing, and then you just got prevented that puck from going in. And also, did you notice that baseball swing that Charlie McAvoy had on OEL after the puck after they froze the puck? There was one that went uncalled there, and I was just thinking back to the history of that first game between the Bruins and the Panthers back in October, where McAvoy had gave a check to the head to OEL. So that's something I found interesting there in as far as after the puck was after the referees blew the whistle there. But the moment where we thought this game was lost for the Panthers came with a push in that third period. But when Jim Montgomery called timeout when it was 11-1 shot advantage for the Panthers, very smart timeout for Montgomery, and just calming things down. You have a multi-goal lead there, and you for him, he's just trusting his structure. He even spoke about it in the mid period interview, what they do with ESPN and Turner during the postseason, just talk about winning battles along the wall. And for Boston, many stretches where they were just better and out physical the Panthers. I mean, the hits. I mean, 69-54. Nice, by the way, for Boston for as far as bodying it up. But that timeout for the Boston Bruins, where they scored shortly after with that high stick that Lindell got to the face. Once the Boston Bruins scored on that breakaway, it was game over for me for the Panthers. And it was just, the Panthers came out with a push, and when you see the stat sheet 11-1, and then a coach calming a team down and then scoring, that's right there where it's like all hope is gone. On to game 2. How about you?
I was a little bit earlier. I was very close to knowing it was game when it was 3-1. When they scored to make it 3-1, it was close. But I was like, all right, like, I'm going to give it to the intermission. If you can score a quick goal in the third period, you can get back within 1. And then that failed power play. When Matthew Tkachuk misses a wide open net.
Yes.
One of the very few times you're ever going to have an open net against Jeremy Swayman. He misses. He hits the outside of the net. I had my arms in the air being like, all right, it's a 1-goal game with 18 minutes to go, and he misses it, which he'll never miss again in his life. I knew the game was over right then and there. They just were not going to recover from that moment. And this is a team now that I believe from the regular season now to the playoffs against the Boston Bruins is 0 for 15 on the power play against them. They can't score on the power play against the Boston Bruins. And the Toronto Maple Leafs could not score on the power play. They were 5% against the Boston Bruins in the last series. They only scored 3 goals one time. I'm like starting to get nervous that this is going to be the same thing all over again just with the Panthers. It's like now I get what the Leafs fans are going through. You can't score. How do you score against this power play or against this penalty kill? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. The first one in the first period was awful. And then they had another one, which was okay. And then the third one, they missed an open net. I'm starting to run out of answers. You're 0 for 15.
And what a beautiful feed from Barkov to Tkachuk, too.
Oh, it was perfect.
It was just
a backdoor play. The Bruins were finally out of position. You can never pull the Bruins out of position.
It was a gimme.
Your entire life, you can't pull them out of position. You finally did it, and you missed the open net. How is this possible, Armando? How is this team going to score a power play goal?
That was as gimme as a gimme can get when it came to that goal. When it came to that.
It's Matthew Tkachuk. He puts that in 99 times out of 100, but he picked the one time to not do it to make it a 1-goal game. I guess there might be worse times, but he picked a pretty bad time to miss it. Yeah,
and just a lot of missed opportunities for the Panthers. I know 0 for 15. It's going to be tough to score on them. I mean, 95% penalty kill, and for the Boston Bruins, I mean, and this was a fairly, for the most part, disciplined game for the Panthers. I mean, they didn't get their second power play goal until the end. I mean, that's the frustrating part because the Bruins power play was firing at 35%, and the Panthers and Palmer spoke about it after the game that these are issues that they believe they could fix, which I agree with. But I mean, you're not getting your quality. You're getting, and the thing is, you're getting your quality chances on the forecheck too. The Panthers I thought they forechecked pretty well on the night too, and I thought they were just getting the pucks on net, but it's just rebound opportunities too. I mean, Jeremy Swayman wasn't giving those up, and that's ball game there.
So here's the adjustment that the Panthers got to make. All right, it's pretty simple. We're gonna go back to hockey 101. All right. Yeah, we're getting a lot of shots on goal, but here's the problem. Jeremy Swayman can see the puck.
Mm-hmm.
If he can see the puck and there's no deflection, it's a save. You just got to bookmark it as a save. That's honestly why I was so shocked when Tkachuk scored that first goal, And then I saw the replay that, oh, wait, it deflected off Lindholm. You're just not going to beat Jeremy Swayman if he sees the puck. So it's pretty simple. We got to go to the net. We got to put bodies in front, and we just got to shoot. And we got to take the eyes away, and we got to pray after that. Pretty simple. We're gonna go to the net, and we're gonna shoot, and then we're gonna pray. That's what we're gonna do, because it's like Jeremy Swayman right now is we're starting to feel on the other end of what we were going through last year with Sergei Bobrovsky, where he literally stopped everything. The only way you can score on Bob is if you take the eyes away from him. Hopefully this doesn't happen, but it looks like Jeremy Swayman might be on a 2011 Tim Thomas run here. That's when a goalie is that hot. It's you got to dumb it down. You got to go back to the basics. A lot of the times the Panthers in this game, they were getting their chances, they were getting their shots, and they were getting them in tight. But if Jeremy Swayman can see it, it's not going in. You just got to take away the eyes. It's hard to stop a puck when it's guys like this. Hard to stop it. You can't see anything.
If you're not subscribed to the YouTube, please do so you can see what Jackson just did just now.
I can still talk on a microphone, but imagine me trying to save a puck like this. Okay, that's what you got to do. You got to take away the eyes.
But so gotta take away the eyes for Jeremy Swayman, and for the Panthers, it's just about making the necessary adjustments to take them away for sure. Which now it's going to be a long 48 hours right before the Panthers and the Bruins do take the ice again. But in segment number 3, we're going to discuss more about the Panthers and how they've been here before. And can this be the same thing this time around, even though the Panthers are starting this series at home? We're going to discuss that next here on a Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It's winner take all in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home big wins of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your playoff shot count. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Segment number 3 here on this Tuesday, May 7th edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day here on a Tuesday, where the Florida Panthers are coming off a 5-1 loss against the Boston Bruins at home in Game 1 of the second round. And also, there might be a little bit of optimism for the Panthers with the news that they got this morning, with now Sam Bennett mostly being day-to-day, has mostly skated before the media arrives at War Memorial. So we know nothing as far as how he looks. I mean, it's an upper body injury, so the skating is going to be fine. It's really about the gripping of the stick for Bennett. And like I said in my crossover and even last week preparing for this, Sam Bennett has played multiple first games of the regular season and even the postseason. Last year, he was inserted in Game 2. This time around, he was inserted in the very first game of the regular season in Boston back in October, too. So this will be nothing new for Sam Bennett making his return. And, man, when you think about just a confidence up and down the lineup for the Panthers and what he brings and just balance. I mean, I know you want to have the Tarasenko conversation too, even though he's not on the same line as Bennett, of what that can do for if you were to put Tkachuk there, because let's not forget, Jackson, these lines that the Panthers currently have were at the end of Game 5.
Yep.
And this was you wanted to shut the door and put it away. But there's also another part of me where I'm thinking, why go for that spark? Why I don't mind going for that spark in Game 5, but why not go back to what was working prior to that too? So that's another thing for that. What's your opinion on how things are the lines have shaken up for the Panthers as far as their forwards?
So I'm first of all going to start with Bennett here. I am going to go out on a limb, and I don't have insider knowledge on it, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's playing in game 2. I just have a feeling he's going to play.
I have a feeling too.
But if he does not play, I don't mind that they started with Barkov and Tkachuk together. I think that's really cool. It's really awesome. You got your 2 best forwards on the same line. Isn't that normally how hockey is played?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's normally how teams do it. They put their best players on the same line. But because of with Bennett out and the fact that Tarasenko looked like a complete ghost out there, I didn't recognize him. I didn't know he was even on the ice. And he's playing with Kevin Stenlund, who's a third-line center right now, but he's not really a third-line center. And I love Kevin Stenlund, but he's not really a third-line center. You got to put Tarasenko back with Barkov. You just have to do it. And then if you want to mix and match from there, sure. You probably would go back to the lines before, which is Lundell in the middle with Tkachuk and Verhaeghe. Rhino goes back to the third line, fine. Or no, Rhino goes to the first line with Barkov and Tarasenko. But the whole thing, my whole point, is that you have to put Tarasenko with Barkov.
Yes.
Period. End of story. You just have to do that.
Yeah, I mean, Tarasenko on the night, no points, no shots on goal, 13 minutes, 18 shifts, -2. That's his stat line there.
I didn't see him.
No hits, neither.
I had to. I called my friend after the game. Did you see Tarasenko on the ice? He goes, well, I saw number 10. And I was like, well, are you sure that was Vladimir Tarasenko? Or are you positive that was Vladimir Tarasenko? I'm calling him out. He did not do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's because he's playing with Kevin Stenlund. So put him back with Barkov and see what he can do.
Yeah, and just because he hasn't really given it. There also wasn't a chance to like develop some chemistry with Erod too in the regular season. So this is just a little bit out of the blue too. It's for how these are shaken up too for the Panthers. I mean, and I'm hopeful that Bennett will play in game 2 for the Panthers. I mean, we've seen him. That's not easy to take a shot right on your fingers. So it's going to be tough to like just grip.
I don't know.
We don't know. That's from the looks of it. But man, and the worst part of it is spoke about leading up to this. I spoke about Zacha not getting a goal, Coyle not getting a goal. One of them, Coyle being moved to the wing for Morgan Geekie, which Morgan Geekie got on the score sheet tonight, thanks to the first one, thanks to a turnover. And then you have 2 guys who get their playoff goals in Lohrei and Brauzell. That's the most frustrating part. I told myself, if you could let the DeBrusque or even the Brad Marchands beat you, which Brad Marchand mostly assists the puck too, but then it's also the way those goals are scored too. It's not necessarily the fact that they do, because if they're earning it when it comes to cycling and getting rebound chances, cool. But if it's just errant passes out of your zone and also for the Panthers, which those last 11 minutes for the Panthers where Boston was going into their shutdown mode, the Panthers couldn't get through that neutral zone to save their life neither. And that's also the frustrating part about all of this when it comes for the Panthers, because there's no Bergeron and Krejci aren't walking past that door, but when you have the structure that they have defensively, you're gonna have to win these 2-1 games 1-0. I mean, this was an ugly game. And take the score out of it. This was ugly in itself as far as like tight checking, not too many open lanes. But man, it's just the way those goals were scored by Florida.
I thought the game was going to be 1-0, 2-1, which is why I was really pumped when Tkachuk scored the goal. I thought, like,
they broke through, yeah, right?
They pulled it, they got it. All right, here we go. Like, nobody's moving. The Boston Bruins are so frustrating because you look at their roster And you're going up and down the lineup, and you're like, how many of these guys are actually NHL players? Like, let's go through the list. How many are actually NHL caliber?
Middle six and a lot of other teams, I would say, at least.
Maybe half.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe half of them are regular NHL players. Most of these guys, it's like, where's Waldo out here? I don't know. Like, Jeremy Brazo? Who's Jeremy Brazo? Morgan Geekie is your number one center. Morgan Geekie. Are you kidding me?
Mm-hmm.
Parker Witherspoon? Who is that? James Van Riemsdyk would be really cool if this was 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
We're in 2024 here. And what makes it so frustrating is you see this roster and you're like licking your chops. And I fell for it too. And I'm like, oh, we got them. We got the Boston Bruins. You know, the Panthers, we got the structure too. We got the talent as well. We're going to kick their you-know-whats. What happened?
Yep.
What happened? The Bruins don't make a lot of mistakes. Even
they don't beat themselves.
Might not be as talented. And when they do make a mistake, they got Jeremy Swayman, who's going to save everything. And the difference tonight for me was when the Panthers made their mistakes, because NHL teams are going to make mistakes,
mm-hmm.
Sir David Bobrovsky couldn't bail him out. That was the difference. It really comes down to goaltending. It's special teams and goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
That's the game. It's special teams and goaltending. You're 0 for 3 on the power play. Your goalie doesn't make saves. You're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
It's the playoffs. It's going to be hard.
Yep. And boy, are we here for a roller coaster of emotions, one way or the other. And also, one more thing.
My prediction was Panthers in 5, by the way. So technically, they could win 4.
They could. Mine was Panthers in 7. But
really, what it could be is Bruins in 5. I just got the name wrong.
Oh no, I would hate that. But face-off advantage. Not the end-all be-all for the Panthers, but Bruins were 45% in the previous series. Panthers were 15. It was 59-41.
Yep, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah. So
the Panthers used to be a really bad face-off team, and it just doesn't matter. It's one of those things where can you win your face-offs on the power play and the penalty kill? That's what matters.
That's what matters.
That's about it. And the guy that they have taken the face-off usually on the penalty kill and the power play is Alexander Barkov.
Or Stenlin.
Or Stenlin on the penalty kill, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as neutral zone, even offensive zone draws, look, as long as you're in the right position on those plays, it's really not going to matter who wins the face-off.
Yep.
It's only really on special teams. So, you're going to lose games when you win 59% of your face-offs. It's going to happen. You're going to lose games when you have nearly 40 shots on goal. You just hope that you have a goaltender that's going to hopefully bail you out in the next game when you do make mistakes. And hopefully Aaron Ekblad doesn't turn into a traffic cone, because I wish I had a traffic cone with me. I would just bring in all the props here. We need Brooks Koepka at the next game.
Hey, he did win. I believe Brooks Koepka won in Singapore this week, so maybe he's on a little bit of a break from Live Golf right now. So not.
Well, they don't play as much on Live anyway, so he could just fly down. He can go to a game. He can call Aaron Ekblad a traffic cone again, and then maybe that'll motivate the team to come out better on Wednesday.
Hey, we'll see, but it's going to be a long.
Pull out all the stops.
Yeah. Hey. Whatever it takes for it to light a little bit of a fire for them, for sure. But Jackson, I want to thank you so much once again for joining me on this edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. Love the fire that you brought on today's show. I think it was very necessary for the loss that the Panthers had. So tell everybody where they can find you online, my friend.
Sure. Well, I am the host of the Locked On Syracuse podcast, and trust me, there's a lot of losing in Syracuse. It's okay, though. We're in the offseason, so we're automatically the offseason champions. You can find me at LO_Syracuse. That I tweet a lot there, Syracuse content. And, of course, my Twitter is down below, but in case you're listening, it's at JacksonH_52. So that's where you can follow me.
Yeah, you can follow him there for his Florida Panthers related tweets when he's not talking about Syracuse athletics. So once again, thanks, man, and hope to see you soon back on the show, my friend.
I will hopefully see you soon, depending on how far this team goes.
And if you like what you're hearing, Please subscribe to the podcast to be notified every single time the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast jumps into your podcast feed. Don't forget to also subscribe to the other shows on the Locked On NHL network, including Locked On NHL, Locked On Fantasy Hockey with Flip Livingstone and Steve Roden, and Locked On NHL Prospects. Thank you once again for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast your first listen of the day. So I'm Armando Velez with Jackson Holzer, and you've been listening to Locked On Florida Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day.